Hi, I'm Renee Tucci and I'm going to show you how to make a hug-proof boutonniere. Okay, so today we're going to make a traditional rose boutonniere. And there are lots of different boutonnieres that are on trend right now, but again, I'm focusing on the traditional rose. I have two roses here and I wanted to show you how I select my roses for boutonnieres for a standard grown-up man. We're not talking a ring bearer here, we're talking a grown man. So hopefully you can see the difference between these two roses. This one is much larger than this one. So for my boutonniere, I'm going to choose the one that's actually a little bit smaller. For scale, it's going to be more appropriate to go on a grown man's lapel once we've had all of the greenery and filler and adornments. So once I've got my rose chosen, I'm going to start to prepare it by cutting it down to size. So I will remove the leaves so I can see the stem, and I really only need about an inch or so. You know what, let's go a little longer. I'm going to do a more modern look, so I'm going to go about 1.5 inches to 2 inches on the stem itself. Now I'm going to look at the petals. If I have any petals that are chewed or torn or bruised in any way, I'll pluck those off. The other petals that are on here, they have a little bit of a different coloration to them, but that's because they're called the guard petals. I actually like the guard petals. They're left on from the grower stage, and they're meant to take the sort of beating in transit from the grower to us. But many of the guard petals on different roses actually look beautiful, so I'm gonna leave those on. So once you've got your rose ready, the next thing to do is wire it. And this is where my version or my technique differs from a lot of other people. So what I do, well, I should say what a lot of other people do is they'll take a wire, and I like a 20 gauge wire. That is my preferred wire gauge on a rose. And they'll take their wire and they'll actually insert it horizontally through the calyx. And this is called the piercing technique. And as you can see, it just goes straight in horizontally, and then they'll pull the two sides of the wire down so that they're parallel to the sides of the stem, and they will tape. My technique is a little bit different. I will actually, let me remove this wire and show you my technique. So I actually, peeling a few petals off here, I actually take my wire and I insert it straight up into the calyx and into the head of the rose until I feel resistance, until I know that the rose, or the wire I should say, is in the middle of the rose. In doing this, now I've connected the head of the rose to the stem. Therefore, if there's a really aggressive hugger on the wedding and the groom or the groomsman is getting hugged really hard, the head might want to snap off. The wire will keep the connection between the stem and the head, giving the illusion that it's still all connected. If the wire is just straight across the rose beneath the rose head, the head will pop right off. So it's a little bit of illusion work that we've got going on here. Now we've got the wire straight up into the head of the rose, and I'm going to decide how long I need that wire to stay. Now I want to leave a little bit of the bottom of the stem exposed, which is a more modern on-trend look for a boutonniere, a little more organic feeling. So I'm actually going to cut the wire about 1/2 inch short of the bottom of the stem. So now the wire, as I say, is connecting the head with the stem, but it's not going all the way down. At this point, I'm going to take my stem wrap, and stem wrap is wonderful for a lot of different things, especially flowers to wear. The more you pull the stem wrap, the tackier it becomes. So as you learn to work with the stem wrap, you will learn to, as you can see with my right hand here, I'm slightly pulling the stem wrap, which is exposing the tackiness of it as I'm spinning the flower into it. Now I've reached the bottom of where my wire is, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that stem wrap off, and now the wire is concealed against the stem. So I feel really good about my mechanics. I know that my rose head is going to stay connected to my rose stem. Let's finish it off. I've got a little bit of foliage here. I've got some Israeli ruscus. I'm just going to add a simple piece of greenery to it. So this, for me, I usually play around with it a little bit and try to find the best placement for it. Now again, we just need a little bit of the greenery, and we need a longer piece of exposed stem so that I can connect them in a meaningful way. The other thing I'll point out is that a rose does have a front and a back. So you can see that these petals are higher in the back here, but they do kind of dip down here the way that they're layered. So that's going to be the front of my rose. So as I'm layering my greenery on, I'm going to do that in the back of the rose. So I'll do a little piece there, then maybe I'll take an actual leaf or two down on the front, no stems, just leaves, something like that. And I will tape that in place as well with my stem wrap. Again, holding everything carefully in place. As I start to spin the stem wrap around, pulling the stem wrap slightly to expose the sticky until I get to where I was with the wire tape, so that all of the tape ends at the same place and I'm just seeing those raw stem ends there. That gives me a nice little backing and warms up the look of the rose with the earthy greens. I could at this point, if I wanted to, add in some baby's breath the same way. I would just take a little cluster of it, lay it against the rose. For this point, this boutonniere, I'm not going to do that. I just want to show you how I would finish this. So I would take a little bit of ribbon. In this case, I'm using lavender ribbon because I wanted you to really be able to see it against the stem. And you can do this a lot of different ways. You can pin it in place, you can glue it in place, you can tie it in place, but basically you want to start the ribbon at the bottom where the ribbon wrap is going to be. So that's basically going to cover our taped area, not the stems. So where I started the stems at the bottom, I'm going to start to work my way up, spiraling and moving up ever so slightly each layer around the rose until I get to the top. And then when I get to the top in the back, I will go ahead and cut my ribbon. Now again, you can, they sell really tiny little pins. You could pin this in place, you could leave it longer, and you could tie a little knot. I actually have some U-glue dashes here from Smithers Oasis, and I'm going to use my my stainless steel, my scissors that I can cut through very sticky things with and not get gunked up. And I'm going to cut myself a small piece of the U-glue dash and attach it to the ribbon itself. Then release the other side of the U-glue dash and stick it in place. And now I've got a little bit of ribbon trim to finish up the bottom of the boutonniere. And this is a really simple way to create, again, a simple but traditional rose boutonniere, but using the Tucci method that connects the head to the stem as opposed to the wire going straight under the head itself.